your race or your ethnicity is now attached to what it means to be your wealth and your property.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those things are American. They're not just American,
Not
but
just,
they're
primary.
not just
Yeah.
American, but they're capitalistic at its base.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's understandable that it's problematic.
Exactly. And I mean, really understanding our buying power, right? And how we collectively can shift this behavior. Ever felt those awkward vibes when religion and money come up? You're not alone. Welcome to Yahweh's Money, the podcast where we tackle the crossroads of faith and finance. I'm Shay Cook, an accredited financial counselor and the CEO and founder of Crusaders for Change, LLC. Join us on our journey as we discuss topics like tithing, saving, and conquering debt through religious perspectives. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Yahweh's Money. Today we're going to be talking about boycotts and buying power, turning purchase into purpose. And I'm so excited for our guest, but before I introduce him, I want to start with just saying, every dollar we spend can be purposeful, whether we're shaping the world around us, our family, whatever. But recent boycotts have reminded us that our wallets can speak just as loudly as our words. But how do we decide when, where, and what to support? I know this has been a question going on for months now. And how today we're going to be diving into the power of consumer choice, the impact of recent boycotts, and how God's word calls us to align our spending with our values. So our main scripture for today is Proverbs 31, 8-9, which states, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the all rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly and defend the rights of the poor and needy." This verse reminds us that our influence, whether through words, actions, or spending, can be a form of advocacy. Boycotts and intentional buying are ways to speak up for justice and righteousness in the everyday life. Man, this is going to be a great conversation. Everybody go deep, y'all. We got President Steven Waddy, Anne Arundel County NAACP branch president. He's amazing. He's a father. He is everything, I'm sure, for many people. And brother, your husband too?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Long-term partner.
We were talking about that on a past episode, how that's super important. But welcome, President Waddy, Steven. I've known him for a few years now, and he's just been great in every circle that I've been in, whether it's chamber, economic empowerment, and now our president.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I love the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So tell us more about you. I know you're also an attorney, a lawyer, right? You're in a...
Not an attorney.
But
not an attorney. No, I'm a teacher right now. I'm teaching middle school, 7th to 8th grade, social studies in Baltimore City. And I'm from Columbia, Maryland originally. Parents are from Baltimore. My family's from Baltimore for the most part. Like I said, I grew up in Columbia, graduated from Atherton High School, went to Winston-Salem State University, where I majored in history and secondary education was my minor. So I went to school to teach social studies. I moved to Atlanta after I graduated. Went to Ghana my junior year.
Nice.
Then I came back and I did my student teaching. Then after I finished my student teaching, I moved to Atlanta and I started working down there doing a lot of civic work, whether it's voter registration. It's a lot of civic engagement, starting with the AUC, the Atlanta University Center with Spelman, Morehouse, Clark, and Morris Brown, right before Morris Brown closed down.
Oh, okay.
And then the Interdenominational Theological Center. And I also work with Rainbow Push. I was working with the American Front Service Committee and another group called Concerned Black Clergy.
Oh, wow.
So it was like 4 main civil rights organizations in Atlanta that I work with. And then that was 2003. Katrina happened. 2005. I got disgusted by the situation that I saw across the South with all of the greed and craziness that went on following this massive tragedy. And then I decided I want to go to law school. So I came back up here and came to University of Baltimore School of Law. And I finished there in 2011. I started working with the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with the Maryland ACLU. Then I worked with the federal lobbyists at the ACLU as well. And they're with the LGBTQ lobbyists and the religious liberty lobbyists. And I came and selling real estate with my dad, and I joined the NAACP here in Anne Arundel County about 2016. I was a youth advisor, then I became the political action chair in 2018, and then the first vice president in 2022 or 1, and then became president last year.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. So you've been giving back since forever, it seems like.
Yeah, yeah. It's in my
It's
DNA.
in your DNA. I love that. Same here. I come from servant, whether my dad's in the military, both parents are ordained reverends, so it's always been, you got to give back to people, God's people, and help them in any way you can. So,
How
yeah.
much is given,
Yes,
much
much
is
is
required.
required. So thank you for your service
Thank
and your
you.
continued
Thank you,
service.
sir.
Yeah, because you do an amazing job being our president and leader of our branch. So we appreciate all you do. All right, now let's get into our rapid fire questions.
Take your seat, let the wisdom inherit. Let's hit the rapid fire questions. Say what's on your spirit. Take your seat, let the wisdom inherit. Let's hit the rapid fire questions. Say what's on your spirit.
So you ready?
Yeah.
When was the first time you realized your money had power beyond just buying something?
When I came back from Ghana, I had seen so much poverty
Mm.
when I was over there, and I experienced a change in my worldview around how I should spend money and the level of exploitation that was going on in that country, I would say on the continent. And I came back and I didn't want to buy any oil. I didn't want to pay for any gasoline. I didn't want to drive anywhere because of the level of exploitation that these oil companies had engaged in. And that was just one form of protest that I wanted to take on. I was so disgusted by my country's multinational corporations taking advantage of the most poor and destitute people in the world
Yeah.
and forcing them to pay service on debt that they had been forced to take on during dictatorships. So it was just a series of things that I came to understand in full relief when I was in Ghana that I knew before I went. I didn't have a full perspective on how what was going on here affected people globally
Yeah.
until I went there. Then I came back, and that's when my money made a difference.
Yeah. I can see that. We lived in Turkey and saw some of that similar things there too. So,
Mhm.
oh, wow. All right. What's one example of a boycott or values-based purchase that stuck with you?
A boycott that stuck with me so far has been this Chick-fil-A boycott.
Oh, okay.
Like whenever I think about all these other boycotts going on in this modern time, like the Chick-fil-A boycott around their LGBTQ policies and of the owners. It's not even like the Chick-fil-A's per se, but it's the owners of Chick-fil-A who have such disdain towards the LGBTQ community. I think that is something that has kind of stuck with me for the past 10 years, 10, 15 years,
Wow. Okay.
that people have been engaging in that.
Mm-hmm. And what change did you see from that?
I haven't seen much
I
change.
am.
The change I
we
did
got to do
see,
better, people.
like relationally, was like who is really
Mm-hmm.
about that. You know what I mean? That's really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what stuck with me is like some people will say, "Oh, I'll boycott this for Black people. I'll boycott that." But when it came to the LGBTQ and Chick-fil-A and their chicken, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like, am I there yet? You know, are those my people?
Yeah.
Are they in my community? You know what I
Mm.
mean? And so it just it tested the limits of
Yeah.
community, especially for Black people.
Yeah, we're about to get into that soon. So, last question. How do you personally decide whether to support or stop supporting a brand or a company?
Ooh, definitely has to do with their relationship with the Black community. That's a personal decision that I constantly engage in. Then it's their relationship to my body, whether or not I'm eating something or drinking something that's trying to kill me.
Mm. Yeah.
That's another thing. Like if I'm thinking about Monsanto, I'm thinking about all these different brands that they own, and how they affect my health
Yeah.
and the health of other people. So
Yeah.
those are my main metrics. Like what is the company's relationship to the Black community, and then what's its relationship to me and my own health.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you for sharing. All right, so let's get into the main discussion. So, with the rise of recent boycotts and their real world economic effects, I mean, let's talk about that. I know the first thing that came to mind, I know a lot of people's mind in my circles is this Target with the DEI and all of that. And people have been talking about Amazon and a lot of those things out there. Like, what are some of the real world effects that we're seeing from just how these people are treating us, not treating us, whatever, or just the boycotts? What are you seeing from that?
I think a lot of the rise of recent boycotts, when we're talking about since 2020, since this year, we're talking about this
Or
year,
yeah, you would
recent.
say over recent 2020 with George Floyd and all of that and the yeah, all of the racial tensions. I mean, it's been there forever, right? I mean, since the start of this
I
country.
think
But
what you just said about George
George
Floyd is a
Floyd,
big thing,
yeah, yeah.
is that the George Floyd backlash was like a defense from boycotting. Target engaged in a campaign for Black suppliers after George Floyd. All these other companies, they put up their little black squares and they were engaging in DEI efforts and they were placing funds in the hands of Black businesses and creators and whatnot. And that all has ended. And I think that the rise of the recent boycotts is really in response to that. It's not necessarily, it's disinvestment.
Yeah.
That we're boycotting because you've disinvested in us. That response is very heartbreaking because it feels like, we're alone and isolated and we were only tokens for the brief period of time that you decided to support us
Exactly.
based on our race.
Mhm.
Like you do see race clearly in that there are racial dynamics to Black poverty,
Mhm.
to poverty in general, and the wealth gap. I wouldn't even say poverty, but the wealth gap.
Mhm.
You're only willing to sacrifice so much of your own greed and hoarding in order to help provide for people who have built your companies and spent their last at your space for you. You only have so much that you're willing to give to us. And so there's a lack of trust. There's a lack of reciprocation. When there's a sense of commodification around who you are, then for Black people especially, it's very visceral.
Mm.
Other people may not sense it, but
Yeah.
Black people know when
Exactly.
they're being treated like property.
Yeah,
And that property, we take that very seriously.
we do. And it's very disheartening and disappointing, period. I'm just at the point where, I consider myself empathetic and compassionate. And my husband might say I'm other way. But sometimes right now in this moment, I just don't care about the other. Like, I'm sorry, like people that are on the other side don't understand how this is affecting the Black community. Even in the beginning of the year, I'm all for Black and brown, but at some moment, I mean, I was just done with that. I'm like, no, Black, like, you brown, a lot of y'all voted for, and all of that. We ain't gonna get all into that. It was just very disheartening. And I was just like, I have no empathy. When I see people and like crying about certain things because of who they voted for and now they ain't doing what they want to, or because things are changing, it's like we were trying to tell you we were the token, that they were this, that it wasn't gonna last. And look at what's happening. It's hard. And I know God didn't want us to be like that. I'm sure if Jesus was here right now, he'd be like, Shay, come on. You gotta have Lord, it's hard. It's hard to have empathy for the other side with all of this stuff going on. It
It's
really
very hard. I totally agree with you. And I think Jesus also said, or at least I don't know about Jesus, but God, when they're talking about what we're fighting against,
Mm,
Paul was saying this, we're not fighting against, flesh and
flesh and
blood, but
blood.
principalities.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have no empathy for those types of principalities is understandable. You know what I mean? The people are one thing
Yeah.
because unfortunately we've attached the sense of identity to property.
Mm-hmm.
Your race or your ethnicity is now attached to what it means to be your wealth and your property.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those things are American. They're not just American,
Not
but
just,
they're not
primary.
just
Yeah.
American, but they're capitalistic at its base.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's understandable that it's problematic.
Exactly. And I mean, really understanding our buying power, right? And how we collectively can shift this behavior. Going back, I'm just going to use Target throughout this episode. I know for y'all that love Target, I used to love Target too, but you got to stand on your ground. Like, you got to stand where you believe your beliefs are and your values. And I know that's like a poster child right now, Target, but And there's many other companies that were out here boycotting. But with that, it was a struggle. Like people understanding, like you said, they had the black business supplier, diversity suppliers in there, and they started cutting those. There was a lot of bad things going on. And just understanding that collectively we can really change things, but having people really believe that sometimes, especially in this modern day, with my husband will always say, people are so focused on themselves, they don't understand what we can do collectively.
Yeah. Where are you on Walmart?
I haven't been to Walmart in years. I've never been a Walmart shopper, really.
Why not?
Because I was more of that bougie Target girl. And
Walmart.
and I'm OCD and I hated going into Walmart and it was like stuff all over the place and it wasn't just, so I'm like that person. Like instead of going to Ross, I'd rather go to a boutique store. That's just me with my OCD, honestly. I just like quality and cleanliness and stuff. But I mean, what do you guys say about Walmart?
People have boycotted Walmart for a very long
I know.
time.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think what you just said about your first statement, I'm a bougie black girl, and then I don't shop at Target. I mean, I shop at Walmart. I think that the people of Walmart, they had that meme that used to go around called the people of Walmart, and it would invariably be like some overweight person who looked like they were wearing the clothes that didn't fit, and they were country. It was just, that was the meme that was going around. It just defined how people saw the shoppers. That's what I mean in terms of like identity being associated with your purchasing. Same with Starbucks. People have been boycotting Starbucks for various reasons, most lately because of their support of Israelis.
Israeli, yep.
But before that, people were boycotting Target because of their practices with farmers. They weren't paying farmers. I have this book about a woman who was boycotting Starbucks, and she kind of describes how her thought process around why she boycotted Starbucks. One, they kind of took the idea of an Italian bistro or Italian coffee shop and then commercialized it, so now they've commercialized but you've lost all of the cultural aspects of it and you're only keeping the aesthetics.
Yeah, for commercial. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that people enjoy. And then that's just one layer of Starbucks commodification of culture and cool. And then at the same time, they're also commodifying and exploiting these farmers who are providing some of the best coffee in the world. And, you've made billionaires, but these coffee farmers are struggling to be able to provide for themselves. So there's a people can see that. I mean, Nike, people are boycotting Nike.
Yeah, no, my daughter keeps me up on all of these boycotts. So yeah she keeps every week there's a new one.
That's what I'm saying. And so as a consumer society, that's what we are. It defines who we are. And that definition of what we buy as a part of who we are is very difficult for us to break through as we especially gain more wealth and attach more of ourselves to where we are
and what we
in
have.
life.
Yeah, exactly.
And what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's a good point because even going into the next point here, biblical principles for consumer choices. Really, if we focused on that, the stewardship, the justice, the alignment with God's values, that would help us make decisions. And honestly, all the things you're saying, I'm like, I don't want to shop nowhere, but just small and black. That's it. Small and black. Even though I have an addiction to Amazon, not too bad. I can let stuff sit. But even when I'm on Amazon, I'm looking for small business, because I want to, or women owned or whatever, because I want to support those. But we really got to make sure our consumer choices are aligned with those things. That's what's important to us, that it's not all about capitalism and commodification, all that. It's about what really matters, who we're really supporting, and keeping the black dollar in the black neighborhoods. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. The other side of it is that our government has been co-opted by these multinational corporations and by, just this idea that no matter who you are, you can be bought and sold. When you're talking about Amazon, one of the Amazons trying to find a shop on Amazon is what you just mentioned. And so that's been a major piece of regulation that has been thwarted by Amazon's lobbying lately, is that Amazon was actually creating mirror shops and selling undercutting the pricing of the small business owner by creating the same product at a separate shop
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's the level of duplicity that they were engaging in
Wow.
because they have such a massive control over the online marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Their ownership within that market is like 60%.
It's crazy.
60% of the online purchases go through Amazon
Wow. Almost a
Marketplace.
monopoly, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You have to go to Amazon Marketplace in order to be able to have an online storefront for the most part. Like
Yeah.
that's what they're saying. And the regulation of that, like you said, it defeats their competitiveness.
Mm-hmm.
They are allowed to be a monopoly for the most part, or they are so powerful that they determine what other online marketplaces look
That's crazy.
like Etsy and Depop or
Shopify, all of those. Yeah.
Shopify. Yeah, all these other marketplaces are defined by what Amazon does. Their market power and their market strength is something online, especially needs to be regulated. But Amazon has co-opted the regulators, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and so they control
Yeah.
how they are, and they also own the politicians.
They do that. They do own them. Yes. Yes.
So that where we're looking for, like you said, these principles of justice and stewardship and alignment with God's values, we're instead seeing a corruption.
Greed.
Exactly, exactly. The direct
Money,
opposite.
power, all that
Yeah.
trying to take over and yeah, yeah.
You know who talks about that? From my perspective, the best pastor to talk about that led a boycott in Montgomery,
Mm.
Alabama. And Dr.
Wrong Dr.
King,
King. Mm.
yeah, Dr. King's leadership in that boycott and understanding of the economic dynamics of Blackness in America and the economic dynamics of America. He speaks in his Major for Justice speech. He talks about the sense of belonging that's associated with your purchases and your attendance at church being, some churches are churches that are for the professionals, and everybody at this church got a Cadillac, so I got to have a Cadillac. And then, everybody at this church driving some other car, or they work in some other place that's adds a level of prestige to who you are. And Dr. King was saying that outside of all of that, you have to have a sense of belonging. And the best way to build that sense of belonging is through service.
Amen.
Dr. King talks about everybody can serve and everybody can be a servant. And that's what his leader in Jesus was, a servant.
Amen.
And so his commitment to biblical principles,
Yeah.
commitment is maintained through his constant, steady focus on the service of Jesus on behalf of those poor and destitute and those who may not even know who they are, trying to provide a vision for people to find out who they are in times where they're trying to belong through the purchase or the consumption. Like your belonging is through service and not through consumption.
Not through consumption. Yeah. Wow, that's good. And having discernment in these boycotts too really matters, right? When do we honor God, or when do they honor God, or when do they might cause unintended harm? I know the biggest thing, going back, just going to use it as the model for this conversation, but like Target, all of them, like you said, Walmart, Nike, Starbucks, all those big brands, like, they are, some of them are franchises. And when you start hurting the Black owners of these franchises, right? That you got to make that have that discernment and trying to make that choice of
Well,
boycotting.
you got to have information. You got to have information in order to be able to make the proper
True.
choices. And if we are separated as a community where you feel like you're an owner and you're a job creator and you're an entrepreneur and you got ambition, don't nobody else have ambition that you have. Like you feel like you're separate from the rest of the community. It's going to be very difficult for the rest of us to support you. I think we kind of see that with the Target boycott when we were listening to one of the people who received some money from Target, and she was describing how y'all could do this boycott if you want, but I'm gonna be hurt by it. And at the same time, it was like we understood that was a conversation. Whereas there's other people who we will never know that they were hurt because they aren't having that conversation with us. With social media having more of us having direct access to consumers and not like solely having to advertise through television. There's less barrier to entry.
Yeah, it is.
And so a lot of these social media companies are selling us to the the the
The
the
brands or the
owner.
companies. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're selling us to the owner, so to the brand, like you
Mhm.
said. And so the brands have to communicate back to us what their situations are. One of the issues with us, this is a mass politicized economic, the nonviolent action that's taking place. And it's politicized, it's political, and it's mass and it's economic. You have to have organization associated with that. When you're not a part of the Black organizations, then it's harder for you to understand who is going to be impacted. You and I are having this conversation because we've been in the same room many times.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We're part of the same organization.
Mhm.
And so if you're not a part of these organizations like the NAACP, the Urban League, even the National Newspaper Association, all of these legacy Black organizations were created during a time of segregation. If we have these spaces, businesses and entrepreneurs need to be a part of them, and so do consumers who want to be able to make informed decisions. That's going to allow us to have better discernment.
Yeah. I agree with that. Knowledge is power. It always has been.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a balance between conviction and compassion, as I was talking about earlier with the empathy and the compassion when making spending decisions. I want to, not only if I'm on Amazon looking for small and Black owned, I'm actually going to the websites of the book owner or the author or to the brand that is Black owned because it's just better, even though I just read an article recently about how, people don't want to go there because you get the free shipping and all of that on the other side. Like you said, they're capitalizing and monopolizing Amazon on all of that. But I was like, man, I'll just go ahead and pay the $5 shipping, whatever. I mean, that is going towards the business owner. I mean, they got to take their time to pack that box and send it to me. I ain't mad at that. Or I'll go to there and shop in Baltimore or around this area to go buy something. And that's how we need to support them. But how do we balance that conviction and compassion when we're talking about these boycotts?
It's difficult because, like, I think about the Montgomery bus boycott. Like, they boycotted for 360 some days,
Yes.
but people were going to jail, and the stakes were so
So
high
high.
because it was violence on the other side of that. And I think that breeds a stronger sense of conviction.
Mm.
Like you said, when you have that empathy and when you can understand the heightened level of violence associated with your compassion and your conviction, then it can increase your willingness to participate
Mm.
and make those decisions. So part of what I've tried to do lately is, especially with this big bad bill, the budget bill that they passed,
Mhm.
is describe it as being violent, that they are engaging in economic violence. They're encouraging starvation.
Mm.
They are encouraging disinvestment.
Mm.
And disinvestment leads to homelessness. Disinvestment leads to all types of backlash.
Mhm. Which crime and all of that goes up with all of that.
Your health care, they're taking away people's health care.
Mm.
So they want people to die.
Mm.
And outside of all of that, I would describe that as a form of policy violence. Yeah, I think we need to start speaking about what's happening and what these corporations are doing with the same level of heightened vocabulary.
Yeah, and not only hiding but plain language, or people put it where they say put it where the goats get it, but people understand, and like you said, a little more dramatic and heightened, so they can be like, what? What? When you said that to me, I was like, what? Economic violence, man. I'm gonna be using that for now.
But that's what
These people
Target
are
is
violent.
engaging in.
Yeah, that's
Target
good.
is engaging in psychological manipulation.
Mhm.
They are terrorizing us because they are trying to say it's our fault. That they are choosing to not support Black businesses because we aren't supporting the Republican Party.
Yeah, because they want to align with the administration. Yeah.
Exactly. And they're trying to say it's our fault. The same thing that Donald Trump is doing right now in D.C. is that they just fired 50,000 people that live in the Maryland DCVA area. Maryland has had its highest unemployment rate since the pandemic that just came out. People are having to decide between paying their mortgage or buying food. People are existing in workspaces, if they still have their jobs, that are hostile. You got a hostile workplace. The manipulation that they're engaging in is totalitarian. It's like you agree with us as the party, or you don't deserve a right to exist. Your existence is under threat. And that's the level of violence, like I said, that they're engaging in against us in this very moment.
Wow.
And so I think people have to start to see that
Yeah.
in order to be able to have the conviction to say, if I have any type of economic privilege, then I'm going to take advantage of that to maintain resistance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to live in a space and I'm going to help other people resist their violence against them.
Wow. That's amazing. It's amazing, crazy. Oh my gosh, it's amazing, y'all, that I'm having this realization during this, man, just the economic violence of it all, and how we need to step up and support each other. And it needs to be a collective action, as I was saying earlier. And we really come together. Y'all need to attend these NAACP meetings, Anne Arundel County or wherever y'all at, or any other organization, like Steven is saying.
We have our Green Book directory.
Yes, we have our Green Book of Black and Brown Businesses, Anne Arundel County. So definitely it's on our website and you need to check that out. Just Google it. Anne Arundel Green Book. It's on our NAA or NAACP. They want us to say it different because every A matters, somebody said recently, which I agree. But I mean, you know what it is. So, but I would add, 66% of consumers say they're willing to pay more for products from companies whose values align with their own. And, but some people just are so stuck in their ways and so trying to follow influencers or whatever. They don't care about that. They're just going to buy whatever. But we really need to be intentional in our buying because we have power in that.
And Costco will show that.
Oh, yes. Costco has been a supporter. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The NAACP also did release a list of companies that have not ended their DEI and continued their support for diversity. At least I don't know if they're all engaging in equity and inclusion, but equity and inclusion is a much deeper conversation.
It is.
But, a lot of them just getting caught up on the diversity part of it. We're going to maintain our support for Black people or white women and Latinos. Equity, when we're talking about employment, it's something that, are you hiring more employees or independent contractors? Are the contracts that you're providing to these different businesses, small businesses, are they exploitative or are they actually aligned with the needs of the organization? That equity is a whole different situation, a whole different question for a lot of organizations. Like even if you're talking about Starbucks or Whole Foods, Starbucks and Whole Foods are seen as the harbingers of gentrification. If you see them coming into your neighborhood and you in a poor Black city, you know that the white folk are coming and it's going to be money that's going to be coming to take your property and you will be likely, priced out.
That's crazy.
Shortly. And how do we navigate those types of conversations?
Yeah.
When you see that, okay, they might be aligning with one group of like entrepreneurs, but community-wise, they are destroying, Black neighborhoods and enclaves with their wealth and their little tokenized decisions.
Wow, Steven. See, this is why y'all need to join our branch and get all this knowledge from this brother, man. He's full of great information. Oh my God, there's so much going on. So much that each of us can do in our own little circles in our world. And just remembering, your money is not just currency. It's a tool God has entrusted to you. Every purchase is an opportunity to advance justice, show compassion, and reflect on his kingdom values. So before I get into the call to action of the week, any final thoughts, President Waddy and Steven? That was amazing. Thank you for your time. Any final thoughts?
Thank you, Shay, for bringing me on. And, I know that the Crusaders for Change is going to be a major part of any change that happens, any boycott, any economic decision-making that's going to be made by people who want to have disposable income, who want to be able to identify ways to use their income in godly ways and Christian ways. They're gonna need you to be able to guide them on that route because you have a purpose. That purpose is is something that is impactful and is necessary in this movement. I definitely appreciate you bringing me on and letting
Yeah.
me talk my ish for a little while.
I appreciate it. I love hearing you talk your ish. You got a lot of ish that we need to all be talking about. So thank you for your time and all you do. And thank God for you and your family. And may y'all stay safe. So, guys, this week, prayerfully review where your money is going. Identify one company or cause you can support more intentionally and one you may need to reconsider supporting based on your values. And remember, small changes multiplied by millions of believers can make a kingdom-sized impact. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon. A big thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you found today's chat about the intersection of religion and money insightful. We would love to hear your feedback. Hit that subscribe button or follow the podcast. And please feel free to leave us a review. For the latest Yahweh's Money content, visit us at crusaders4change.org or find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Until next time, stay financially fit and spiritually inspired. And remember, it's always better Yahweh's way.